So here's the deal, guys. You're always asking me, how do I make money with plants? You're looking at about $500 worth of profit right there for 1 hour of work. All right, so we're going on a field trip here. I've got the 2 tykes with me today, and we are going to pick up 360 Douglas fir seedlings, bare root, in 3 big bags. So the plan is, we've got the side of our property that is almost a quarter mile long. We want our privacy there to just keep expanding this garden-like setting with rhododendrons all the way down the property. So we desperately want to plant big trees over on that side. Now these are seedlings, so it's gonna take some time for these things to develop, but I've got nothing but patience. So we're actually headed down to meet a guy right now that is selling these seedlings. And then when we get back, we're gonna have to do a whole video about clearing a huge part of the side of this property that we've got and then planting out all these seedlings. It's gonna take some years for these things to grow, but you know, you plant a tree now for 20 years from now. All right, so we got these bags picked up and just got home, and I opened these suckers up. Look at these seedlings. I don't know. I think I'm looking at saplings here. These things are pretty good size. So I took a tape measure to them, and from the roots all the way up to the crown, we've got 32 to 36 inches for each one of these things. It's amazing. These things are just massive. You can see the trunks already, and they're just growing like crazy. For seedlings, I mean, you cannot beat that deal. We got this for 75 bucks a bag, 120 per bag, but here's the deal. I got a little overzealous and bought 3 bags of these things, so I've got 360 of these little seedlings. I have enough property to plant all these things out. However, I haven't had time yet to clear all of that property with the excavator. The excavator's down right now because I got to get that muffler replaced. So things are backing up. We're in the prime season for planting these seedlings, but sometimes the good deals come along at times that just aren't going to work out for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to pot up 1 bag of these, 120 of them, and I'll save those for, if I can get to this year, we'll do it this year. But if I have to, they'll be in pots and I can save them for next year. And that'll give me a year to clear this side of the property. The real cool thing about all this is I got these things for a really good deal, and so I'm gonna mark them up a little bit and see if I can recoup all of my money and basically get 120 of these Douglas fir seedlings for free. All right, here's your little Mike Kincaid tip for the day. When you've got pots that are stuck together, now these aren't stuck together, but if you've got bigger pots, sometimes they're tough to get apart. This only seems, well, it'll work with any rubber-soled shoes, but I've always got the barn boots on and it works great. You just put your boots on either side of it, push down, and pull up, and they come apart pretty easy. There we are, we're getting a start, and these little trees are getting potted up. So I don't know how many I've got there, probably like 15 or 20, maybe something like that. But in not much time, you get all these things potted up. And here's the interesting thing. Each of these seedlings costed me, I think, like 62 cents a piece, something like that, because I bought them in bulk in a bag and they were bare root. That's a lot of bees. But we pot them into these 1-gallon pots, and this right here, here's a nice stout one. That, if you go to a nursery, you could pay $12.99 for something like that. From 62 cents to $12.99, and it took me literally seconds to pot each one of these up. That's like 12 bucks, a little over 12 bucks per, what, 6-7 seconds, something like that. I mean, you can really see how if you've got some spare time at home and you're just trying to make money with these, which I'm not, this purpose was really to get the side of my property planted in trees so that I can get a nice border. But if this was your purpose, you can make some good money with this. And one more thing to consider, if you were to pot these into 2-gallon pots and just let them grow through the entire summer, fertilize them well, and just keep them watered, these things will probably grow a good solid foot, especially if you keep the water to them. They'll grow a foot in 1 year as seedlings like this in a 2-gallon pot, fill out with roots, and you could easily get 20 bucks a piece for these things. Maybe, gosh, maybe even 25, 30 bucks a piece for them. All right, so we got Shelly out here helping right now, but now I got to figure out where I'm going to put all these things, and I've got an idea. So I've got this right here. It's an old planter made of cedar that I kind of stored away. I haven't used it in a few years now, and I just need something to put all these in so that they don't get blown over by the wind, and I think that's going to work out perfect. I've actually got 2 of these things, and I can set them up over where I can keep them watered regular. So let's lay this down. Maybe, actually, this is the bottom of it, I think. So let's pick this end up and lay it like this. There we go. There. Just get off that hump. There we go. All we're wanting to do with this is just be able to pop these plants in here and pack them in tight so they can't get blown over. Okay, let's tilt this guy this way. There we go. In fact, let's pull it forward a little bit, and that'll allow sunlight, make sure it gets down in there to the back rows. All right, so now that we've got a spot for these guys, I can start carrying them over. All right, so we're just gonna start piling these things in, and they're gonna be squeezed in, which is exactly what I want there. And then they won't blow over. We'll just line this whole thing out. All right. There you go, buddy. All right, so we got it all finished up. Let's walk on over here and see what we've got going on. Check that out. All 120, and check it out. We've got 3 extras right down in there. So 123 of these things, and we just figured out we spent like an hour from start to finish getting this all done. Didn't take much, got the whole family involved. So here's the deal, guys. You're always asking me, how do I make money with plants? Think about this for a second. I spent $75 per bag on these. There were 123 in there. If we were to turn around, now that I'm looking at these 5-gallon pots, now usually at a nursery, landscape plants, most of them are like 10 bucks or around there, $12.99 these days for a 1-gallon tree. Did I say 5-gallon pots? I meant 1-gallon pot. I don't know. Anyway, 1-gallon pot, usually around $12.99, $12.97 for any kind of landscaping plants. But we're going to say, since these are just Douglas firs, we're just going to say they're generic Douglas fir trees for Western Washington. We're going to put a $5 price tag on them. If you take into consideration the cost of bark, the cost of the pots, and say $1 per tree is what we've got into this, you're looking at about $500 worth of profit right there for 1 hour of work. And of course, I took the time to drive down to pick these up, but imagine now $500 of profit out of these, and I've still got 2 free bags of these, so 240 more of these things. It's amazing what you can do with plants. Now, if you just want to work your butt off every day, think about $500 an hour and just do this 8 hours a day. If you can find the market for the right plants and enough of them, I mean, think about that, guys. This is what big nurseries are doing. There's your plan. There's your idea. So the tides have turned, and over the weekend, I went back to work for a few days. We actually got some interest on these little trees, and my wife changed her mind. So she decided that she wanted to keep every one of them. And while I was at work, she potted up almost all of them. We've got 80 trees left to pot up out of the 360. So here's what's left in the bag. We've got, you can see, just a pile of them to pot up, but that should only take about 40 more minutes if we can get this done at the rate we've been going at. I came back through here just the other day and fertilized all these and then put down some castor on to help prevent weeds coming up. But you can see that's all done, taken care of now. I watered them in real well and everything's kind of set and good to go. But look at that. There are just so many of them. There's got to be like, what is there? I don't know, probably 260 or something like that here right now, but just a ton of these little trees. I mean, we are going to have a massive border going around our property. Now, the guy we got these from was real happy to sell them to us. We got them for $75 a bag, so $225 for 3 bags, plus I gave him $10 for the gas money to meet me where we met. We were both probably, I think, maybe an hour apart from each other, so $235 total. Now, we were talking about making money with these things. Now, my wife has decided at this point she wants to border the property with them. We've got some fir trees that were planted before we moved here in a hedge, and they're spaced about 6 to 9 foot apart in 3 rows, and they've made a nice little screen buffer from the house across the road so that we've got a little bit of privacy. She loves the look. In the springtime, it's gorgeous because the new branches coming out on these Douglas firs, and those are Douglas firs, but the new branches coming out on them are just this beautiful green that just lights up in the springtime. So at this point, we're gonna plant these out around the border of our property, probably starting next year. Putting these trees in these pots has bought us about a year's time because these are not gonna last in these pots more than a year, but it will give me enough time to get that new excavator and clear a path around the border of our property so that we've got enough space to plant all these come next, probably, well, I suppose if I get it done quick enough, we could probably get them planted in the fall, but at the very latest it would be next spring. So we're not going to sell these, or at least at this point we're not going to sell them, but our minds changed almost daily, it feels like. But in regards to selling them, because I know there was some interest in that, you know, people want to know, how do I make money with these plants? You could sell these for $5 all day long, and here is the proof. So when I first started looking for these trees, right before we found these, I actually almost spent $900 buying trees. I found a guy selling trees identical to these. In fact, since I found these, I'm kind of thinking he found this same deal, turned around, pot them up, and then just marked up the price, which is totally cool. But I waited a little bit and sought more avenues out and then stumbled across these, which I'm so glad I did, because I almost spent $900 on 300 trees. Instead, I only had to spend $235 on 360 trees. So if you wanted to, and his trees, he had just potted up a few weeks earlier, and so the roots weren't even fully grown into the pots yet. So it was just all profit really, other than the pots, which are really cheap. So if you wanted to wait one more year, water these through the summer, and then sell them next spring, you could easily get $5 a plant for these things. I think you could get more, but if you just wanted to sell them quick, $5 a plant, these things are going to be up another foot probably by the end of this summer and just filled out with roots. So even if you just sold 300 of them and kept 60 for yourself, that's $1,500 right there. Is there a market for it? There's a much bigger market for it than you might think. These ads are all over the place, from Northern Oregon all the way up through Washington, up into British Columbia and Canada above us. So, you know, big nurseries do this on a much larger scale. This area, now your area might be a little different, but this area is a heavy producer of lumber and paper trees. And so there are always people planting Douglas firs. There are always people reforesting their properties after logging them. And so there's a massive market for this kind of stuff in my area. Now in your area, it might be a different tree or a different plant, and that's fine. But the idea is sound, and if you haven't started exploring it yet, you should get online, start looking into what you can buy in your area, wholesale, you know, bare root, and then turn around, pot up, grow for a year, and sell retail. You'll find that there's a big world of it going on out there. So I was originally going to show you guys what we sold these for, how we sold them, the ad online, all that. But since my wife's changed her mind and we're keeping all of them, the video ends here. But either way, I hope you guys learned something. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe if you want to follow along and see how these things turn out and what we end up doing with them. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.